remember very clearly what the Credo meant to the company and to me from virtually the first day that I started. The importance of producing a quality product, cutting no corners, how we were supposed to behave and treat people with respect. It became very clear that the Credo was very important, really provided the bedrock for the company and how it behaved. I started on the third shift at our Easton Surgical Dressing Plant. Had not a clue as to what I was doing. I was a trainee. I can still recall the second week I was on the job, I was on the third shift by myself in charge of a department that was slitting adhesive tape. And I had misread the work order and had them slit a complete shift's worth of 1 1/8 inch adhesive tape. Now, this was terrific adhesive tape. The only problem was we didn't sell 1 1/8 adhesive tape. We sold 1 inch, 1.5 inches, 2 inch, but not 1 1/8. So I was stuck with 3 pallets. They called it Larsen.flv. So when I came back in the next day, my boss called and I thought I was going to be fired. And I can still remember, he talked about it. He said, "What happened?" I told him. He said, "You learn anything by that?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, get out of here." The point there was he treated me with understanding as somebody who didn't know what was going on, gave me another chance, which is very consistent with the Credo, as long as I didn't do that every day. And but it was a lesson about how you treat people.
It's my great pleasure to present to you your new management, Chairman of the Board and Chief Executive Officer Ralph Larsen.
I want you to know that I will do my very best to not only build this business, but to create an environment that allows each of you to live up to your potential and make a real and meaningful difference to the future of Johnson & Johnson.
One of the real reasons why Johnson & Johnson is the great company that it is, and there aren't that many great companies in this world, but Johnson & Johnson is a great company. But one of the reasons is because we have great people. We seem to be able to attract great people, people who are interested in working in a field that improves the quality of life for people. They are interested in doing a good job. They don't need to be pushed or shoved. They're self-motivated. We try to encourage them with sensible working conditions and good pay and an environment that allows them to bring out their talents and contribute without having a thumb put on them by an overbearing boss. And we've learned that when we do that, magical things happen because people around the world, as you do, feel deeply responsible for what you do. You have the freedom to do the work you're doing here. By having daycare, so a mother or father can maintain a career while at the same time being assured that their child is in safe hands. So we do all these things not because we're soft-headed or overly paternalistic, but rather because we've learned that that's what allows us to attract and keep and motivate the best people in the world.
Love is touch, touch is love.
Touch. It helps babies to bond.
As the Chief Executive Officer responsible for the corporation and its long-term health, I viewed that name Johnson & Johnson as a trust mark, not a trademark.
Your touch and Johnson & Johnson. All the caring in the world.
When moms and fathers use our products on their babies, they need to trust it. When people take our medicines, they need to trust it.
Touch is love.
And trust is a very fragile thing. Every good and healthy relationship is built on trust. And it was very important, in my view, as we move forward with the company, to always keep in mind that it takes a generation to create a reputation for trust. It takes one bad decision that breaks that trust to tear the house down.
As much as we strive for perfection in everything we do, as we grow this company, we must not forget the importance of the ethical base, the foundation on which this organization was formed. You show me an individual who has a tendency to bump up against the line, kind of always right on the edge, and I will show you an individual who will eventually get you and this corporation in big trouble. You know, if you were the captain of a ship that runs up on the rocks in the middle of the night, nothing good is going to happen to your career. And I want everybody to understand that.
The role of a leader, the role of a chief executive officer is to make the best decision they can, make the best call with the facts that they have, and then be responsible for the consequences. But these are always tough calls. They're tough decisions. All the easy decisions get made somewhere else. When you got to the point where you were choosing between the least worst option, it would usually wind up on my desk.
In American business news tonight, word of a major investigation into possible price fixing by 22 leading drug makers, including Merck, Eli Lilly, and Glaxo, about a possible conspiracy to overcharge independent companies for drugs.
I can recall one case where all the pharmaceutical companies in the United States had been sued by a group of class action lawyers alleging antitrust activity, price fixing. And we absolutely did not do that. Every other pharmaceutical company settled with these lawyers for an extraordinary amount of money, $200, $300, $400 million, because they were afraid to go to trial where the damages could have been even larger. Our lawyers and our senior management wrestled with this, and it seemed like extortion to us. And so we went to trial, and an extraordinary thing happened. When both sides presented their case, the judge threw the case out from the bench. He never even let it go to trial. You know, he just threw it out. And they appealed, and it got thrown out again. So that was a case where we stuck to our convictions of doing what was right, even though the risks in that case were very substantial. We had other situations. I can recall receiving a call on a weekend in a country that was under political pressure, great political strife. There were riots in the streets, and a group of people had taken over the plant. And the managing director called me and he said, I'm going to call in the police to have these people taken out. And we talked about it for a little bit, and I said, I don't want you to do that. I said, just take the management and all of our people and leave, and give them the keys. Because I knew if the police came in, people were going to get killed. And you can't replace a life. And then an amazing thing happened, because when the management left, there was no reason to be there anymore, so all the people left. And the problem went away. No damage to the plant. And, nothing bad happened. But when you de-escalated the confrontation, the management feels they need to protect the assets of the company. I understand that. One of the things I could do as a CEO is have perhaps a longer perspective, and I was willing to take the financial risk. If they burn the plant down, we'll build a new plant. The easy decisions were, if it's even questionable as whether it's legal, you of course do what's legal. It doesn't need brains to do that. But in many cases, it's gray. You have medicines that are helping tens of thousands of people, but you got a side effect affecting a very small number of people. I knew that if we took the product off the market, there were babies that were going to die. How do you make that decision? On the other hand, if we kept it on the market, there were going to be people who died. And so it's a benefit versus risk. And we continually weighed that. Those are the things that would keep me up at night.
And that is an opportunity for really a large group.
Jim Burke started this wonderful Credo Challenge, and he did it for the purpose of providing a forum where people could talk about it. And that was hugely successful and a very important step in the life of the company.
Our focus today is on implementation of the Credo.
Certainly I learned from that and how valuable that was, and so we always created a mechanism for talking about the Credo. I can still remember in these internal debates that we would have about issues like this, in the heat of the moment, one of our executives saying to me, well, how do you square that with the Credo? How could you do that and still say that you believe the Credo is important? And we'd have that argument back and forth.
At the end of the day, it's leadership that makes it happen. Like it or not, we, each of us in our own positions, are the people that are responsible for those Credo survey results.
The Credo was the North Star. It provided a sense of direction for the company. It provided the foundation upon which we all behaved and acted. I think Johnson & Johnson is well known for the importance of the Credo, and I think it's been a very important part of why that name, Johnson & Johnson, is a trust mark.